We've known the memory effect of the rejection amplifier will latch at the last resolved state if there is no strong injected input to flip over the state. Even though a reset is added, the next opposite input swing must exceed a threshold voltage to flip the polarity if the previous state was not fully reset or discharged. Then we call this residual charge a hysteresis, which should be obvious in our previous sample video discussion, but might be an oversight in the CDR's performance discussion. Let's review the reset phase at the sampler one more time. The differential signals at XY and PQ are near zero during the reset phase. Can you tell if there's still some residual charge or hysteresis still in the sampler after the end of the reset phase? If not, what kind of test bench can you try? Think about the opposite images for 5 seconds. Correct. The memory effect or hysteresis comes from opposite polarity, and then you can provide a very slow rising ramp and a very slow falling ramp to simulate both conditions, negative input to positive input and positive input to negative input. For an ideal sampler with a clear-out reset, see the differential output toggle from 0 to 1 right after the input just passed the differential 0 voltage from the rising ramp. On the other hand, you should see the differential output should toggle from 1 to 0 right after the input just passed the differential 0 voltage from the falling ramp. But for a real sampler without a clear reset, what would you expect? Bingo! You should expect the differential output toggles from 0 to 1 after a delay time delta TR of the time when the input passes the differential 0 voltage from the rising ramp. Then the sample voltage VNR will be the minimum input voltage to flip output from 0 to 1. Similarly, the VNF will be the minimum input voltage to flip the output from 1 to 0. The hysteresis of the input voltage is VNR minus VNF, which is usually the static input sensitivity of the sampler, and that's usually not quite useful since the clock to Q timing of the sampler was not included. So we already discussed this hysteresis voltage. How about hysteresis time? Correct. The hysteresis time is very critical to any CDR locked in the transition of the input data. Take the Alexander phase detector as an example here. If the transition reference will lock to TR from 0 to 1 and TF from 1 to 0, then the data-dependent jitter DDJ of the recovery clock is introduced by the edge of the sampler's hysteresis. The higher edge sampler's hysteresis and the CDR will generate higher DDJ recovery clock. Therefore, to avoid the excess DDJ from the input, we must minimize the sampler's hysteresis as little as possible by trading off its speed. Here are a summarized image of why we must have a low hysteresis sampler for CDR. The reset is a must to clear out the memory effect of the rejection amplifier of any sampler. But the residual charge without full reset will not only result in the hysteresis voltage, but also translate to a hysteresis timing. Unfortunately, either the hysteresis voltage or hysteresis timing cannot be simulated through normal PRBS input data. Instead, we specifically apply a very slow rising and falling ramping input to capture both hysteresis voltage and hysteresis timing. Usually, the static input sensitivity of the sampler because of the hysteresis voltage is usually not quite useful, since the cut-to-Q timing of the sampler was not included. The data sampler's input sensitivity must be evaluated with the speed over timing. On the other hand, the hysteresis time is very critical to any CDR not in the input transition data. For example, the transition reference will log to TR from 0 to 1 and TF from 1 to 0. Then, the edge sampler's hysteresis enlarge the data-dependent jitter DGJ of a recovery clock. Therefore, we must minimize the sampler's hysteresis as little as possible by trading off its speed. Thanks for watching. Before you go, if you are benefiting from those circuit images, I would love to hear your feedback. And please share your comments down below. Lastly, please share the video link with the people who may be benefit from it.